was delighted when Kyo asked me to host this, and I thought we would go a little bit Charles Dickens with Ghosts of the Past, Present, and the Future. These are two names which are synonymous with musical quality, with good family values, with support. Furtado's Musical, and the two names which are synonymous with those, Gomes, Das. I would like to start just by asking each of you a little bit about how your families got into this weird world of music in India, because it's not necessarily an obvious direction and path, and with such long established traditions within music that your families both have built. Where did it start? I know there's a story behind both of them, so.
Okay, I'm not going to keep this very long, but just from the perspective of history, the organization was started in 1842 by a piano tuner, basically. And that was obviously to help the expat community at that point in time. And by around 1910s, he kind of almost lost everything what he had earned, so he wanted to sell the company. And lo and behold, there's this piano teacher who's really dependent on this particular company to help him with, because she used to teach there and stuff like that. So she said that what am I going to do with this fellow who's going to close and go away? So she approached a friend of hers, and he said that, okay, I'm willing to invest in the company, but I don't know anything about music, and I'm French, so I don't want anything without French there. So the first thing he did is change the name. He made it into a French name, which still we have. It's called Musée Musical, Museum of Listening means museum, and it was run by this piano teacher. She used to run the company, and it was continuing business. Obviously, at some point in time, in mid-1930s, my grandfather was introduced to these gentlemen. That's how our family came into the business. Post-colonial era, independence, and all, there was a lot of struggle on sustaining Western music. It was more about Swadeshi, it was more about India, and anything which is European was considered taboo. So obviously challenging times for those people in those days, but they did what they had to do, and here we are today. And obviously once these people moved on, the business came into our family, and we are trying to do as much justice as possible to stay relevant and stay true to the cause for which we exist.
You're most certainly very, very relevant, so please don't worry about that.
So our business was established in 1865, also where you will be celebrating 160 years next year. My dad bought the business at the age of 26 in an auction. Similar circumstances, times were tough for the then owner. He went bankrupt, and the collector of Mumbai seized the business because of his inability to pay his dues, and auctioned it. And my dad purchased the business at the time, not having the money to do so. And he was helped by the Gomes tailors of the region in which we are, who loaned him the money, which he paid back within 3 months. And it's been with our family ever since.
It's interesting that both it's coming from a business side initially, not necessarily from a musical side. Do you think that that business background is what has made both sides so successful, rather than musicians are known to be bad with money quite often when we come down to it, we're not very good at looking after ourselves. But do you think it is that business acumen from your ancestors that has led to the success of both of the companies?
Okay, there is music in the blood. We could not say that there's no music in the blood, at least in our family, because my grandfather was an Indian musician. He was a sitar player, and that's how he was keen to get into it. But obviously, there's also an element of business. But I think it's more about the music which is driving the whole business aspect of it, to kind of Because if you're a musician, you understand the needs of the music community, you understand. If you're purely into the business mode, then it's very transactional. And we always feel that music is about emotions. So if you can't understand the emotional aspect of this whole business, it's going to be very difficult for you to really do what you intend to do with that particular individual. So that's the key part, I think, which is important. And those are the values which I think as an organization we are trying to practice, what we imbibe from our early generation.
So when my dad got business, as you rightly said, he was a businessman. In fact, he said the only music he played was the gramophone at the time, and he was a very capable business person. At a time when marginal rate of income tax was 97%, so to keep a commercial entity viable was a big challenge at the time, which he did by diversifying and simply managing. In fact, he was called upon on many occasions to consider doing away and stopping the music, instruments, and sheet music retail business that we had, because it was simply not viable at the time. Imports weren't permitted. And I think here I fully agree with Sachin, although he wasn't a musician, but he understood the emotions and the passion and his personal responsibility to the music community, not just in Mumbai, but because we were responsible for sheet music imports that supplied almost the entire country. He's responsible for the whole country. And so he kept the business going, and things of course considerably improved in the 1990s when India opened up its economy and permitted all of this. So it's certain that it was good business sense to run any business, but you also need in our business a lot of passion and commitment and understanding of the ethos, especially in our country where it's not so widely permeated, there's not so much of, the challenge today is reaching more people. So that is very much an intrinsic part of running our business, and hopefully will continue to be so.
I can definitely testify that there is the understanding of the music community that comes, because more than once myself we have run to you on an emergency saying, we need to have a piano here, or oh no, we need to have a stand for a trumpet, and that quality I think has been so vital, and it's such a support. Can you remember any one of the mad requests that you have either you or in the past that your families have had from a musician, either on a last minute or an insane ask from someone? Oh, they have to think over this one.
Okay, I think that there are always many such requests, so I can say certainly one request from your own organization. So by around 10 o'clock in the night, Dr. Rahman conferences, I want to record something and I want to tune the piano. So obviously Kishore was kind of actually managing, it's going frantic and just Sachin, I don't know if I can reach out to. Just pick the car, come, let's go, because I don't have anything. So I had to go absolutely in the middle of the night. By midnight, I'm sitting and tuning here and finally at 3 o'clock he starts his recording. So these are, so you have to be ready in that sense. You need to have those sort of abilities a little bit which is required to understand the temperament of the opposite person's need. Because at that point in time, as a musician, probably he got something which he wanted to do. And if we are able to support that, I think then we defeat the purpose. So probably that's one incident I can certainly share with you.
Definitely. Actually, probably what had happened was the director would have called and saying, we need this finalized by the morning, so he would have had to. But definitely demands. Have you managed to get it?
Yes, I did. So this was in 2015 when Futaro celebrated its 150th year. We also have a piano festival on Rio, and we were celebrating the 150th year of Futaro's at the 2015 Congress Festival. And our festival director at first wanted 150 keyboards or pianos on stage. So that was a complete no-no, because I wouldn't be able to sell them, no other reason. So we settled for 8 grand pianos. which in the NCPA was a Herculean task to achieve, because the rest of it was just for the ode to joy, the Beethoven's fifth ninth, with a 150 strong choir, especially rewritten the lyrics of the song for the 150th year. And we needed these 8 pianos to just come out for that and go out. We'll go in again, fully tuned, everything ready, and we managed to do it. But that was one crazy request that gave us a lot of sleepless nights.
I'm sure your piano tuner did not enjoy trying to get 8 pianos perfectly aligned with each other either.
And we had 16 pianists, because that was the objective. You sing the entire orchestra, accompaniment to piano reductions on 8 pianos with 4 hands on each. Wow, it was quite something.
As a community, we do like to come up with the crazy, wacky requests, so these poor gentlemen have to actually manage to accommodate us so well with this. And like how you mentioned, part of the history with frittatas was the import of sheet music. And it's something that we kind of forget about now with the readiness of access to digital scores. What have been some of those difficulties and changes that have happened where the need has changed as time has come up to the present, from that scores or from instruments and now in this kind of digital era that we're living in? How are you kind of approaching those changes? Because I know they can be quite challenging for a company, particularly one that has that kind of family store value and suddenly everybody's online all the time. So how are some of the ways that you've kind of been developing around those changes?
I think our biggest challenge with sheet music, I can say today we have one of the best collections of sheet music in the world. It's definitely not out of intent, but simply by default, because we bought so much that we've not been able to sell over the years. And that's the biggest challenge, that you cannot estimate demand, and you can't get people to buy it if they don't want it. And I think things really got tougher once sheet music publishers worldwide started encountering this digital phenomenon. I talked about 25, 30 years ago, because even at that time there were challenges. And so they tried to make their products more attractive, and therefore prices went up. From the ordinary covers and the staid music, you got down to see stuff and all of that. And once prices went up, for our community, for our musicians, for our students, buying music became more difficult, and photocopying became more rampant. And therefore now, sadly, you won't find many piano students, for instance, having their complete collection of Mozart sonatas and Beethoven and all of that. They take their teachers' music, they photocopy the relevant pages of the beautiful compendium and making do with that. And so we had to, over the years, do much less of repertoire music. There was a huge trend in the past of popular personalities, folios, or your rock bands and pop bands. I think we have thousands of those books now that nobody ever wants to buy because it's digitally available. So I think finally our business mainly is driven by examination music. That sadly is the reality. And that is huge and viable. It keeps the print music division of our business, which is now only 1% of our total business. But it's something we're very proud of going, because print music, for sheet music for examinations is crucially important, required, mandatory, thank God for that. And so we have a lot of that setting. In the process, of course, there are a lot who are very keen to buy music, create their libraries, etc., but by no means as much as it was in the past. And I suspect it's mainly because of the accessibility of digital options. Today now you have a subscription model where you can do anything and everything, just pay a little bit for whatever you want to download. It's very practical, it's good, it's what people should have available today. And we have to change with the time. So we ourselves are making some efforts in that direction. And so that's our evolution in our history as a music book seller.
And I would say though, because it's such one of my biggest kind of advantages I had growing up was my mother's music collection. Because I have all of hers with the complete Beethovens and the complete Mozarts and the complete Bachs, and not only just having the physical books to be able to browse as a performer. When you're taking it on digital, you stop browsing, you don't turn your page all the other pieces. But having all of the fingerings and the interpretations that she had, which then I added to and then come back to, we lose so much of that part of the kind of traditional lineage working digitally, because now even things that I myself printed once and discard what you've done with, which is really wasteful. So I think there is a lot to say for encouraging younger musicians who are coming to take the time and effort to build up those physical scores, because it becomes almost a diary of your playing. Tell us a little bit about the now and music education, because normally the short side of music education is something that has become very prevalent on both sides. Sachin visited Musi's the school and teachers there. How is the music education side happening just now? How would you say?
Just to pick up from where Anthony left on the digital side of things, I think that has a huge impact on everything and I think it's every industry which we are doing. So if we really zoom into music education, predominantly it was very certification driven, and certainly is. So one of the challenges which we had to deal with, probably we were also the reason for that, I could say so. And we also now need to do that course correction a bit, is to make our fraternity understand that certification is an end goal. There's a journey towards it. And when we give education, it's a completely rounded education. So what we're trying to really embark on with organizations like Trinity and Futaros and Brillante and some organizations is to do some sort of teacher upskilling, teacher education, and make sure that as a music teacher, they understand their role of complete education rather than just about the technique or just the instrument playing. So that's something we're really working around on. Obviously, within our organization, we're also in massive transformation. So we've started top down. So what we've done is we've developed a program, a pre-college music program. For example, your conservatory, you need a certain level of musicianship before they could come on to you. Whereas majority of music schools and music teachers are not able to really bring the student up to the level from where you can pick up and train, right? So we are trying to bridge that gap through our pre-college music program. Also, what we're trying to do is develop more outcome-based learning. So it's not like you just kind of go on and on and on till you're tired of the teacher and then say, okay, I'll go to the next teacher now. So we are kind of developing those sort of strategies where we develop outcome-based programs. I think, obviously, for people like Focados and us, it's important that we take these steps because this is going to have a ripple effect. Not that we are, we are market leaders or anything like that, but just that there is a little bit of influence around what organizations like these do. Generally, people try to emulate or try to kind of adopt, because there's a certain success model to it. So I think it's important for our organizations to really take that initiative, the leap of faith. Obviously, it costs a lot. It's a lot of investment. We don't need anything in half a decade, I would say, but I think it's important for us to invest in that sort of mindset, if I can say so, to bring that transformation in music education.
100%.
So I think the biggest tragedy of the music community in our country has been the lack of music education post-pandemic. And for various political, cultural reasons, whatever. When I grew up, the only music we had in schools was a teacher playing the piano and used to make songs. And that really impacted music literacy and, forget about musicians, but also audiences and so on and so forth. We aren't an educated concert-going population because we lack the cultural and the education required for that. We are all now trying to address that in the last 10, 15, 20 years. For a long time, Futaros was agonized about whether we wanted to get into education or not. And under our own banner, because our biggest asset is the very close relationships we have with a lot of music teachers. And we didn't want them to feel in some way threatened, because they have their students visiting our stores, and then we could be promoting our school of music to their detriment or whatever. So we agonized this decision for a long time. We finally set up with our school of music in 2011. And I must say that we're very happy that we took that initiative. Because the objective thereafter has been entirely different. It has been to propagate music literacy. And we are adopting both the digital as well as the market model. We have a lot of content that's been created, a lot of teacher training that we're doing. And for now, progress has been good. Sachin is very correct. Returns are sadly very limited in terms of profits. So, but we are very happy that other people are also jumping on the bandwagon, adopting these models with their own variations. Several of them participating in this festival. And we had yesterday on this stage also, their families went fantastically with Indian music in a similar sort of model. We're currently in about 275 schools, normal academic schools where we deliver the entire music curriculum with the music lab, put the teachers, assistants, everything else. But the sky is the limit. And basically what we really need to achieve for our country, not us, we, but in general, the music community is music literacy. Getting kids more and more exposed to music, getting teachers equipped to make it interesting for them and motivate them to learn, because there are so many other distractions and challenges. And hopefully we can create a more convivial atmosphere to ensure that music proper continues to flourish and a lot of more people begin to study and learn music.
It's interesting how both of you kind of mentioned there almost the importance of boards, the importance of schools, but almost a fear of treading on other people's toes. And I've come across a lot of people are always worried about how the various music organizations, whether there's right or reason, and I've always kind of replied on that side, do you know the size of India? Do you know how many people there are? Do you find that it's more of a myth that there's infighting between the schools and infighting between the boards? Do you find that there is enough people and enough space left within this country and for all of them to coexist and grow?
Yes, so much space there. If only people could realize that there's enough work for everybody several times over, and if they collaborated and worked with each other, then everybody would benefit. Because right now, see, a fool is one who learns from his own mistakes, a wise man is one who learns from other people's mistakes. If we collaborate, we definitely benefit each other and work together towards ensuring that we penetrate, reach out. The challenge today is about selling the idea of learning music, not just to young children and their parents, but to schools. Because today schools want to offer a variety of activities to their kids. What do they choose? It's all a matter of who makes the better proposition. And then once we do all of that, continue to deliver at a high standard. For that we need good teachers, for that we need people come from other schools, empowering other schools to do well so that the entire ecosystem improves and is self-sustaining. So there is a lot of space. You're right, our population itself ensures that that's a no-brainer. If only people would realize that. But we're so protective of our small, very, very small territories that we just shut everybody out. We are sometimes ourselves guilty of doing that, and that's a great shame. It's detrimental to the community at large and to our ultimate objective.
And it's why I like platforms like Brillante, because it allows us opportunities across organization to come almost on neutral territory for, again, I was speaking to you yesterday, we were saying how it was such a busy weekend for music because you have so many festivals and so many concerts going on. Do you see it being a strong growth time for Indian performance and Indian both classical music and popular music? Is that something that you feel is growing at the moment?
In performance space, you're asking?
Yes.
Absolutely. I think it's. I remember when I was a kid, when you have a demo concert, you get somebody from anywhere else in the world, you have to really kind of make sure that the hall at least is 25% filled. I think now those days have gone. There's so much awareness that there's classical music or popular music. Definitely there's awareness and you don't need to really, people are wanting to consume this sort of music and learn from it and probably enjoy from it. So performance space is really open. How much are we really geared up to promote this? I think this again is organizations we need to really look into. And again, collectively as a community, how we are really going to look at the performance spaces we need to look at. Because again, we have digital up on the other floor, you can see there's videos, language, bringing, so Adam is doing his performance in his house,
Nobody wants to listen to that.
So technology is definitely going to be a huge influencer, I think, in the future, which we need to, as a community, think about really adopt and adapt. That is an important thing. But having said that, I think, particularly with respect to India, we are a huge film music culture. It's different from music community. We are basically people who adopted music in our lives. We have lived with music, right? But there's the whole consumption market outside there. It is consuming pure what we call popular music in India. It's purely film music. I think that's an area which really needs to be. We also need to understand how that works and how we can integrate that into core, whether it's education or performance in our. So it's also uplifting families or educating the larger masses. Or music is not only about film music, what you hear, there's much more beyond film music. I think that's an important thing which we really need to crack so that we can really grow this market, beyond just film music. And that's going to be our biggest, if I can use the word challenge, in the performance space. Because if I know AR is going to give a concert, nothing sells. Thousands of beats are going to be sold out. If I want to do a piano concert, it's free, then you have to call up people and say, yes, you have a great piano concert. So I think that's the most important thing which we need to do. So if there's some sort of, some sort of understanding of how we can integrate that, I think we should have in such forums topics of really another thing, how we can integrate good quality music system outside space that the core music work there to adopt and integrate it to our core music. That would be a good opportunity for opening up the market.
And I fully agree with Sachin. The performance opportunities are increasing. Viability of people becoming performers is increasing, but specifically in that one domain, the popular film music domain, where you would, not only film music, but even traditional Indian music, whereas Western classical, young performers performing is still a very hard job to crack, to sell, to get people to come to. It's flourishing, it's doing quite well. For instance, I come from Mumbai. We have wonderful performance spaces, more are coming up. They're basically able to sell out their shows. Although now, for instance, as you mentioned, I said yesterday, a lot of events happening for these 2 days. Some shows are not selling out because there are so many events happening, but the number of people are not growing commensurately, or maybe people are not motivated enough to imbibe a regular concert-going habit in doing all of that. It has taken a long time to achieve this because this is a cultural thing. It's about making choices with what you do with your time. Today, people would rather prefer, with their sophisticated sound systems at home, putting on a YouTube video of the same concert that I will be hosting in a big concert hall at their convenience at their time. I'm not so sure the rest of our country, the places where we don't have so much of this performance culture, has the time to develop that thing, because it cannot be switched on like that. It has to be a gradual indoctrination, a desire to do these things, which in Mumbai we've been fortunate to be doing for many years, not we, but our city has been doing. And I think in many other places, I heard of some big concerts happening here, where they struggle to get a decent audience, primarily because it's not a habit, and therefore a challenge for musicians to seek a professional future in the performing space. They're doing a lot in teaching, they're doing a lot in good, they're doing a lot in other aspects. But I think in performing, apart from the very high standards that are required, it's getting the audience to come. That's what we're trying to do now, creating literacy, trying to get people to attend, but it's going to take some time.
I always kind of likened it to developing a food habit, and again, I was very fortunate when I was growing up to have been taken to so many live concerts in Scotland, and my mother was very studious in making, and it was difficult. It's like if you're young or if you're not used to a full symphony, it's not easy to sit and listen to it all at one time. It's so much thought, so exhausting and tiring, and it is build up all the stamina for it alongside building up the enjoyment for it. One of the, again, you mentioned with AR, if you have an AR concert itself, but that has its difficulties also. We saw in the infrastructure for performance venues. Even here last night, beautiful performance center here, and traffic and people not willing to take the time to sit in traffic for an hour and a half. So it's part of this kind of finding the ways of creating those live experiences where people can reach easily, and it becomes more than just the performer sitting on stage. Do you think we need to look at how we are presenting those concerts to tempt the audience in, or do you think that's big? Because we have all of these catalog.
It's all about marketing. It's all about spending money. Yeah, the Cadillac concerts are attracting a lot of very, very good audiences. Obviously, because of the very high spends on marketing, they're doing it, reaching a lot of people. Good for them.
Yeah.
Because it's providing our musicians opportunities to perform.
And I think the music business field needs more musicians, similar to the histories of your families with that musical passion, which shouldn't be business owners or people who are from just the marketing side running these without the understanding of music. And I know from our students, they know that they're not necessarily going to end up as a performer, so they're looking for those career paths, and one of those career paths is in event organization or curation because they come with the music knowledge. So do you think more people going down that line will help to kind of spearhead and drive these audiences? I know you weren't listening to it,
So if I understand, you're trying to ask whether as a community people kind of help and
do you think people, musicians themselves, need to start thinking about that diversity of career where they go into maybe event curation rather than being a performer? Do you think that's something that will help build stronger performing environment?
yeah, I certainly it's a very good point you make. So let me take from the background where we are. We come from a very South Indian Carnatic music culture. So that's a very different culture, absolutely. And now, when we are opening up to a completely global audience, I think as musicians we need to understand the whole connect with the audience. So, as artists, they also need to educate themselves on the expectations of the audience and the performance stage where they are in. I think that is a very important point. We certainly need to. So, I don't know, again, forums like these could be the right. I think we need more forums like these in India to open up, bring more people in to talk about these things which are challenging and see if there are solutions which could be found. But certainly, I think as artists, they certainly need to open up for sure, get themselves more educated, and as Anthony said, artists who have good marketing and PR support, they are able to do much more better than artists who are probably equally good but are not up there. That's the key part which needs to be there.
And actually, right today, some of the most popular courses are for musicians is business in music and the various aspects of it, event organization, production, and so many other things. And it's crucially important for our musicians to appreciate the fact not only that they may never make it as performers, but that they may not even have audiences, that they will have very viable professions in these other aspects. And I believe quite a few are already doing this in our favor. So I think we have a lot of young, well-educated musicians but it's definitely going to make a big difference for them in their professional pursuits.
Wonderful. So we're coming towards the end, and my last one, I just wanted to ask each of you one hope for the future, one prediction of what's going to happen in the future, and one fear of what might happen in the future. You can go one after the other if you want to start with. What's your hope for the future? That's an easy one. Get them on this one.
So my hope for the future is in the music community is a proliferation of music education in our country, reaching all the tier 2, tier 3 cities, the internet, providing opportunity for people to study. I genuinely believe that music can contribute. I'm not talking about it from a musician's perspective, but contribute to them in their overall development. And I think it's an undisputed fact that is true. I think people simply need to have access to resources, teaching resources. So that is my fear for the future. The non-availability of teaching resources. We're not creating enough teachers. We are not, we don't have a focus on that need. And not today, but say 10 years hence. I genuinely fear. We're at a piano festival. I'm very involved with assessments and exams and education. And there is a huge demand and desire to learn musical instruments, but they're being guitar, drums, on the contemporary side, and electronic keyboards on the keyboard side, but not piano. And I fear in 20 years' time, we'll be a country full of wonderful keyboard players, but no pianists. You see, 20, 30 years' time. Because we don't have the benefit of the Western world where music education has evolved over decades. We have to do things in a hurry, and we are not therefore investing enough in creating a good teaching fraternity, genuinely skilling good teachers. So there are a lot of teachers, some very good, but some not so good. They don't have access to teachers. So my fear is that we do not have very good teachers. Prediction of the future, that's definitely a prediction, whatever it is. I cannot say if I had a crystal ball and I could say it, I'd be very rich. But unfortunately, but it's definitely going to be a digital medium in some way or the other. And that perhaps facilitate all that we want.
We can alleviate your fear. Free sideways for all. No?
As long as I'm not paying for that.
Sachin.
I think hope is really great. I think for India, particularly in the music domain and the music industry, be it education, be it instruments, be it production, I think we are yet to crack the global stage. And I think we are starting to do that on all aspects of music. So I think the hope is it's an absolutely bright future. We need more people to come and take music, learn music, perform and enjoy music. I think that's the most important thing. And the beauty is we do have now technology which enables learning. So from our side, what we are trying to do is have a technology platform to connect the whole ecosystem. Right? So I think that's a great hope which we have, that technology empowers, and as a country we have a huge opportunity. I think that's the biggest hope. Now when I come to fear, I think when we talk about mostly the younger generation, the kids of the future who are going with this technology, and now they will be more into AI and other forms of technology which are coming in. I think the most important aspect is music is about emotions, it's about human emotions. And the balance between how much technology can be an enabler to be becoming, succumbing to technology. I think this is going to be the biggest challenge, and that's my fear, particularly for younger generation who are kind of too much into growing up with technology and adopting technology. So for example, you may not have a good voice, but you still can sing it, right? So that probably stops me from bettering my singing. So I think that's a little bit of fear that technology comes to. Prediction, as Anthony said, obviously, we don't have, if you had a crystal ball, you can really say what the future looks like. But for sure, anybody in music, it's going to be a great future, particularly because in education, we all realize that skill is going to be the future. And music, whether you become a musician or you are in any other profession, if you learn music and if you bring music into your life, it enables you to work for university skills as a student, be it collaboration, be it communication, be it creativity, a very big need in the future. I think that is where I see music's future as.
So, to slightly almost the opposite from what you said on that side, and this is coming again from my boss on that one, because he often talks of his prediction for what's going to happen. He thinks it's going to flip, and not that far away that we're going to oversaturate with the AI and the digital, and there's going to be a flip in the need for the human experience in terms of that absolute emotional connection you get from person performing in front of. So he's actually predicting that we're going to flip back to almost a chamber music setup in terms of what people are going to need, because they're going to tire and saturate from digitization. So he's not been so bad with his predictions in the past, so I'm very hopeful that he's right on this.
You will reconvene in 10 years and take so.
Exactly. Anyway,
but if you see, it's the new generation that we're talking about, which don't hold close to their heart the traditional experience, but they don't know it at all. They've been brought up on the digital experience, where human interaction is limited and almost non-existent most of the time. That is why the fear and the expectation and likelihood is digital, because that's the way the world is going. We just follow that path.
we can digitally be intent. Thank you to both of you. If we could please have a large round